Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makudir. The time is 12 minutes past 8. And we'll be going straight into our top story. South Africa stands on the global stage accusing Israel of genocide at the ICJ, a move that is celebrated and lauded across continents around the world. But right here at home, here in South Africa, we have people that are sitting behind bars at this very moment because of a protest against Israel, a protest calling for FIFA to kick Israel out of the organization. And that's the story that we're going to be beginning today's show with. And it's a story that we've been following very, very closely. In fact, the Salam Media team was on the ground yesterday at the Pretoria Magistrate Court, where those four activists, including a minor. Four appeared. The minor has been moved to a juvenile detention center in Soshanguve. The four appeared. This after being arrested at Loftus Versfeld Stadium on Saturday afternoon. There was a Bafana Bafana versus Malawi game, and in true South African spirit, they came out, banners, T-shirts, chanting beautiful slogans, "Free Palestine." Well, their crime was essentially that, expressing solidarity with Palestine during a Bafana Bafana versus Malawi game, and all in calling FIFA out, the mother body that governs the world's biggest sport, and the one that prides itself on, values of humanity and friendship and human rights, the same organization that actually banned Russia because of the war in Ukraine. They've been silent about what's currently happening in Gaza. Israel is still participating in all FIFA competitions, and those five were incarcerated essentially because they were protesting against that. And we were there. It was really, really disturbing seeing some of their families and just how distraught they were. And I think if you can look at the footage that was doing the rounds and what followed after that protest, it was really, really disturbing. There was pepper spray, there was physical force, there was confiscation of personal items by the South African police services, and ultimately there were arrests of peaceful protesters, some of whom were allegedly assaulted. And I think I can say at this point they were actually assaulted if you take a look at the footage and what we saw. And they now face numerous charges, from malicious damage of property to assaulting a police officer. Yesterday they were essentially told that they're going to be spending another week behind bars with hardened, hardcore criminals, with murderers, with rapists, because we were there at the court, and in court there's like appearances after appearance. While we were waiting for the five to appear, I mean, there was one guy who was charged with raping a minor. There was one guy who was found in possession of drugs and an illegal firearm. And you have essentially innocent South Africans that just went there to protest. So really, really concerning time. And it's concerning because it comes during a moment where our nation is boldly calling for justice abroad. Now, how do we explain this suppression of peaceful expression right here at home? And joining us now to unpack all of that is Naazim Adam from the Palestine Solidarity Alliance, who's been monitoring, this situation as people that are in the solidarity advocacy space. And I'm sure he has a lot to say on this. Naazim, assalamu alaikum. Always a pleasure having you on Salam Media, and welcome.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Always good to be part of Salam Media.
No, the pleasure's all ours. I think, I just want your reaction, because I think all of us were gobsmacked, especially people that were present at the Pretoria Magistrate Court yesterday, when we found out that, all of those activists, five of them, including a minor, are going to be spending more days behind bars on a case that's really looks like it has been curated. It looks like a call was made somewhere to teach people a lesson.
Yeah, Salilo, firstly, I think the best people to speak to would be the organizers of that event or that protest, which is Africa for Palestine. certainly they should be in the fore in speaking to this matter. As the PSA, what had happened was after we heard of the arrests, we found out that the father and the two sons, they were also with their younger siblings, two daughters, a 5-year-old and about 11-year-old, a grade 5 pupil. And they had to be brought home by friends. And so we then went to lend support to the mum, obviously, who was very concerned and worried, and the two girls that were there. They live in Indonesia, so obviously we went to give them support. And this is how we then started seeing how we can assist. Throughout the day, obviously following Salam Media, thanks for the updates and the groups on that, we then realized that this whole thing was being orchestrated and was about, I think, certain forces in our country who have not transformed. And we see that all the time. I mean, the fact that 49 of them are going to be refugees in America, the fact that every forum is still pushing the line that they are victims when they are the most privileged community in South Africa, the fact that some MPs go on fact-finding missions to find out I don't know what has already been proven that Israel is a genocidal apartheid state. All of this is evidence that those forces want to still show that they wield certain power and that we won't go into Loftus, we will not go into Afrikanerdom, the stadium of the Blue Bulls, and raise our voices against apartheid Israel and call for the expulsion of Israel. You'll also understand that there are interests within the Football Association that we are wary of, and this is just our perhaps initial reading, is we know that the Palestinian Football Association had asked the Asian Football Association, to which they affiliated, for the red carding of Israel, like was done to Russia, because of this genocide, which has obviously been horrific on our screens every day, and 10 times more lives have been lost in a shorter period of time. And FIFA has been reluctant on this, sending it back and so forth. And they've been asking the African Football Association in particular and the South American Association to support their call for the isolation of apartheid Israel. And we know that CAF is run by Patrice Motsepe. So this is an eye opener for the world and for us to recognize that there are forces in this country that just don't want to transform and do not want to get with the project of liberating not just Palestine, but our own country from the shackles of colonial dominance. Because standing firmly with the ICJ against the kind of horrors that we're seeing continuing in Gaza, the continuous settlement and devastation and ethnic cleansing in the West Bank, these are things that resonate with ordinary South Africans. But those who wield certain positions of power, whether in the prosecution, the police, or even in business, as is with our CAF chairperson, they're not really willing to stand firmly for justice. And I suppose that then resonates with Mandela's saying that we're not going to be free until Palestine is free.
No, definitely. And I think, as you're speaking, and you mentioning Patrice Motsepe, the billionaire whose African Rainbow consortium of companies is still doing business with Israel. We know of that big story of coal still being shipped to Israel via his business. The funny thing about this, if you can check the connections, maybe it's just irony, is the fact that he's actually a shareholder in the Blue Bulls, the very same stadium. Which is really, really concerning. But
we have to call him out.
No,
Patrice
definitely.
Motsepe needs to start speaking. We need to know clearly where he stands on this genocide. And is it more about preserving wealth and preserving good leads with his Zionist contacts and so forth? When millions of people are starving, 2.5 million in Gaza on the a deliberate famine, being created. So does that justify continuing to sell coal through Glencoe and sending it to power the Israeli power stations, which then feed the war machine? I don't think so. But this Motsepe must come clean.
No, definitely. What's the message here for activists and ordinary citizens who want to peacefully show support for Palestine as they've always done? Should they be worried about being targeted and these kind of things, starting to happen?
Look, I think as much as what had happened, and I don't know the details, so I don't want to speak on that at this stage. We do know that the police were very aggressive, as they usually are for most of our protests. They not all, but for most of our protests, there is a kind of unsaid command to say that these people are hostile. There's the whole stereotype that they present about the Palestinian Solidarity movement. And so far, I mean, all of our protests, they may be robust and they may be loud, but they're not. That's what protests are, right? So we're finding an uneven approach to the struggles of Black people and when they protest and raise their voices, just generally. And so that means there needs to be a reflection on the SAPS, particularly the public order policing, in terms of what their real mandate is and how do you move from point A to point B in such a rapid speed without engaging, without trying to de-escalate the situation, without trying to find a compromise. You move straight into batons and shields and pepper spray and assaulting people. I mean, this was a father with his family there, and when they assaulted him, it was natural for his sons to try and protect him. And this is when the police got even more aggressive, and you will see that behind this, and I don't want to race base it, but there were two white police officers that were commanding the whole thing, and the one that initiated it wasn't even in uniform. So we need to be clear that there are problems in terms of instigation that came from particular forces on that day. But like I say, we were not there. We cannot confirm anything. We'll let the courts do what they need to do. It's unfortunate that these spectators, because that's what they went for initially, to watch the game and to raise their voice, which they have a right to do. And we've had a few. We've gone to Pirates games, we've gone to Sundowns games. Handfuls of people keep going with their flags, and that we've had some pushback, but most of the time it's de-escalated, and then they allow us to continue with our messaging, and we get a huge support from the crowd of soccer players. What it does mean is that the solidarity, we have to up our game, Salilo. We have to be more organized. We need to start meeting with SAFA and meeting with the supporters clubs. We need to get a full buy-in. And hopefully, if we can work together as the Red Card Israel campaign and the social sports justice campaign that we do have, because there are also sports justice issues in our own country. Hopefully, we can use sport in a more progressive way. Sport is it's an enjoyment. It's great, but it must also come with some social responsibility. And this is what we were doing. We're teaching our kids that yes, you can enjoy a great soccer game, but you must also remember that there are many people that don't have that privilege, and we need to speak out and for them.
No, definitely. Naazim, going to leave it here for now. I really appreciate your time. And hope this is a case that we'll all be following with a very, very keen eye, because I think it just reflects badly. It leaves a bitter taste in the mouth in a country like South Africa that bears the scars of the apartheid regime, where, peaceful protests like this were once criminalized, they were silenced, and there was dissent and brutalization of Black bodies, as you mentioned, for daring to speak out. And I think the scenes at Loftus Versfeld of, police pepper spraying, assaulting, and, harassing young people for peaceful protests are really, really disturbing. And as you mentioned, there needs to be a bit more organization and a keen focus on this issue. But I'm sure there's going to be updates, and I'll be chatting to you in the not so distant future. Going to be there for now. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Salilo. Take care.
There you go. That was Naazim Adam, and I think what's really frustrating for me is the fact that and I think one person mentioned this in the comment section, the fact that the South African police services, which is now largely made up of black people, it's concerning that there seems to be a bit of amnesia happening, not even generations ago, just 30 years ago. The parents and grandparents of the same members of the South African police services were harassed. They were abused, they were killed, mass killings. You think of Sharpeville and what happened there. You think of the Soweto uprising in 1976. This was the police showing force with messaging from the government to say silence those black bodies by whatever means necessary. And I think you can still feel and see legacies of the apartheid regime through the South African police services, especially when it comes to the protests of black people, black and people of color in this country. There's going to be water cannons. There's going to be dogs let loose on you. I mean, the Marikana massacre, for instance, what happened there. I think all of this, including this Red Card for Israel protest that we saw at Loftus Versfeld, it shows you just how deeply seated apartheid is still in the South African police services, and how black bodies particularly, another example was the Fees Must Fall protest, and how I remember black students would essentially have to hide behind white students. So white students would form a chain behind black students because they know that the police wouldn't hurt the white students. But when it comes to the black students, they would do it with such impunity that it would revoke those images of 76. So really, really concerning stuff. But we'll be giving you the latest when it comes to that court case. We are following it closely. We're the first to break the news yesterday. And you can head over to our social media platforms, just check the latest on it. And what happened yesterday. We're going to leave you with a little clip that we're going to play after this, and then we'll see you after the short break.
Khan, whose husband is also one of the accused in the Red Card for Israel activist case. Manaz, just come out of court. Your husband is going to spend another full week in holding cells. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling hurt. My husband is a hero. He's an activist. He works very hard for his people, for his country, for Palestine. And I feel it's an injustice to him because there was nothing that he did wrong. Absolutely nothing.
Just give us a sense of his character, what kind of a person he is. The charges labeled against them are, pretty severe. There's GBH, there's resisting arrest, and, there's a whole host of them. You knowing him, spending so much time with him, does that connect with his character and the person that is?
Absolutely not. He's a very calm person. He's very level-headed. In fact, I am the one that's usually all over the place, but he's very assertive. And if anybody who knows him will tell you that he's an extremely calm person, extremely calm.
And, the family, the kids, how have they been affected by all of this? Did you get time to explain why Dad is not home?
Yes, I have. I've explained to my kids. Two of them are finding it a little difficult, and they were crying and asking when is Dad coming home. But yeah, it's going to be a little difficult to explain to them that he has to be another week locked up in a cell. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Mr. Amar Hashim. I'm from the firm Zahir Umar Attorneys. I'm here today representing the 5 accused, in which one includes a minor. In terms of the minor, the accused matter was postponed to Wednesday, the 14th of May, 2025, for his formal bail application. With regards to the rest of the Khan family, the 4 accused that are currently detained, their matter have been postponed to the 19th of May, 2025, for an assessment to be done, for their address to be verified, as well as for the formal bail application. We are then working behind the scenes to ensure that everything is done so the matter can be heard on the 19th of May 2025, as well as the 14th of May 2025 in respect of the minor. And I mean, that's the latest at the moment. We will have to then come back on the 19th of May. And
those who might not know what the charges are regarding this case and just your assessment on the charges leveled against the accused, if you can just break down that aspect for us.
The charges at the moment are public violence, malicious damage to property, resisting arrest, as well as malicious damage to property, which does fall under Schedule 5 of the Criminal Procedure Act, and it has to be done by way of a formal bail application, which will be heard on the 19th of May 2025. That's as much of an update we can give at this stage. We are working behind the scenes to ensure that the charges against the accused are dropped, and for now we will have to then just wait till the 19th of May 2025.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ismail Khan. I'm representing Imtiaz Daniels. 16-year-old was being charged, and we were assured by quite a few people from the police station that everything is going to be sorted out. The youngster will be out on bail. When we get to the prosecutor's rooms, things take a change. So now the youngster who's in matric has to sit in for 2 days. Only on Wednesday will there be a bail hearing for him. I think it's absolutely unfair. The system has too many loopholes, because now we don't know who to believe. We were given assurance by the SAPs that everything, all documentation is in order.